Welcome, surviving and thriving agents and investors from across the country. Today is Thursday, April 2nd, 2020, and this is Mastermind call number 272. I just wanted to once again congratulate. We had some great success stories last week. We actually had three that stood out: Aileen Smolenoff, Renee Quiche, and Colette Myers. And what was extraordinary is Aileen and Renee are on total lockdown, and they're still finding ways to do deals. And Colette's a consistent producer. She's always got a good win or two. So congratulations, all three of you. And please, guys, don't be shy. If no matter what your market's like, if you're able to go out and work or if you're locked down, share your successes with the group. I think it'll encourage everybody. And don't be afraid to share your frustrations and issues, too. That's what we're here for. Wow, it's going to be a long call today, Chad. I think we may go overtime. The queue is bursting with people. Tim, anything you want to share? Timothy, are you there?
Sorry,
Chad?
I had myself muted.
No problem.
I was being a mutant. No,
yes.
I kind of beginning to sound like a broken record. You know, we've been just kind of let you guys know what's going on behind the scenes. We're doing a lot of things to make sure that we continue to provide lead sources, and as the courts begin to limit access and things like that, that we're unable to get them in conventional ways. We're exploring other ways to do that, and we've been surprised at the success that we've had. We've actually opened up a couple of markets because of some new approaches we tried that we hadn't been able to get at before, which has been extremely good for us. We had not been able to deliver leads in a couple of cities that had previously pretty much made it impossible to do, and so we've been excited about that, and we're going to continue to do that. The other thing is that if we reach a point with anyone that we're unable to deliver in a county or whatever, we certainly will make sure that we aren't billing you for things we can't do and anything like that. And we want to make sure that you stay with us. We're going to stay with you, and we're doing a bunch of things right now to work on historical leads and things to prospect among them as well, and finding ways to help you get deals financed during this time and all that. So we're your best source for business continuity. And I think that's really, if there's any message that we want to let you know, is that we are doing everything that we can. We're pretty good at what we do. We've been doing this a long time. We know the industry well. We have lots and lots of resources, and we take our job very seriously. We're not just a lead gen company. We are trying to do ways to help do things that help you not only do business continuity, but to prosper. And we're not going to certainly look to take advantage of this terrible time, but we're doing everything we can to make sure that you do well, and we do our jobs to help you continue that. So rest assured that we're hard at work getting that done every day.
Well said. And just a quick example, one of the counties, we actually reached someone who he informed us that they had 81 employees previously, and he was the only one still coming to work. And what was really encouraging, he said they are still filing new probates. It's just being done electronically and by mail. So if somebody needs to file a probate, the executors can still mail it in, and he's there to actually post them. And like you said, Tim, there'll be some counties where that's not the case, but it's been relatively, actually very few so far. So business is as much usual as possible, that's for sure. And let us know how you're doing out there, guys, and we'll pass the word on to everybody. Chad, anything you want to add?
Nope, I'm non-essential. I've just transitioned to watching Tiger King over and over and collecting unemployment.
Okay.
I will say, for anyone who hasn't been on the calls, we are continuing to do a series every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at noon Eastern called Shift Happens. And tomorrow, we're just kind of producing stuff as this takes shape. So I'm not sure what exactly tomorrow will be. We may dig into operations on the buy side. Yesterday, if you missed it, we did cover 7 creative financing ways to keep deals together if they're trying to fall apart, and to keep the market moving if people get too nervous to make a move from the buy side or the sell side of the table. The role play call, that was, if any of you guys were expecting that yesterday, just because of my schedule, we had Probate Mastery and Shift Happens this week. So we moved the role play call to next Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern on this same number. So mark your calendar for that if you want to come role play. And Probate Mastery this month, I mean, it was just challenging because of GoToWebinar and Zoom and everybody else who's having issues because so many users on. But I kind of spun, like, we're pivoting along with you guys, and we're training you how to do this how to do this remotely and still keep the market moving forward. Everything we can do, every single transaction we can close controls this a little bit more. So we're trying to do our best to show you, how to deal with this from a probate perspective, but also across your whole business. We're spending most of the time in Shift Happens is, general real estate knowledge, like what will help your whole business, not just your probate campaigns. So anyways, we're doing what we can, and we'll have a whole lot more coming. We don't have really a set schedule other than, or set agenda other than the schedule is Monday, Wednesday, Friday at noon to 1 or 2.
All right, excellent. And guys, I just a little ground rules. We've got 13 in the queue. This will be the third consecutive week when we're going to have a record attendance and a record number of participants. So we really try to get to everyone. We're going to limit this to an hour and 15 minutes no matter what. We try to keep it at an hour. And I would just ask anybody in the queue, if you've got 5 questions, maybe ask the most important one. And if you have questions that go unanswered or we don't get to you, as always, as soon as the call's over, just send an email to support at all the leads and say, hey, I got another question. You guys didn't get to me on the call, and somebody will call you back personally. But we really want to help as many people and try to get to everyone that we possibly can. So having said that, let's go to the queue.
Hey, Jim, one quick
Yes. Sure.
thing that I forgot to mention, and this really is for kind of a general help to everybody. We know that we're focused specifically on our industry and all of that, but one of the things that we've also realized is that there are a lot of people in some areas who are self-quarantining or staying home, and the work-from-home order is in place in multiple states. So if you know anyone in your community, anyone in your circle of acquaintances and all of that who is either in the restaurant industry or has a company that they can't get mail out because they're closed. In other words, they've got invoices they can't deliver and all that sort of stuff. We have 2 things that we created on the iNet side of our house. One of them is a product called Safe Mail, and literally if anybody can send us, just like we do merged letters for you guys for the probate stuff and all of that, we do mailings for other companies and other industries. And as long as they have a data file that has the data that needs to go out, we can print that for them and get that out. The other thing is we also have another product called the Curb to Table that helps the restaurants enable themselves for carry out and delivery orders, and we can help anybody with a restaurant get that done as well. And we literally created both of those products in the last couple of weeks, just specifically trying to help people in our local community here, and we certainly can help them in your community. So if you know anybody that needs that, if you'll just contact support, let us know that you'd like some more information on it, we'll be happy to let you know, or just give us a contact name and we'll give them a call.
Yeah, and be as specific as possible that you're interested in one of those services so you don't get mixed in with the, with the probate-related tickets. But, yeah, that's great, Tim. All right, well,
Jim,
first, yes, go ahead.
Jim, just one thing in reference to Chad's different sessions that he's been doing. He mentioned earlier, they are all out there recorded, and they're excellent sessions. So people that missed them, I mean, you've got them out there to take a listen to.
Perfect. On both Facebook and in the subscriber resource area, correct?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay, excellent. And Chad, you had something to add?
Yeah, I forgot to mention. So, guys, earlier this week I posted both a summary of all the small business benefits that came down to us in the CARES Act. There's no photo on that, but it was posted by me on, I think, Monday night or Tuesday. The other thing I posted as a big stop sign, that is the SBA, it's a $10,000 grant. It's not a loan. It is a grant. We have confirmed it. So that's a rapid deployment SBA grant for $10,000 for small business owners, including sole proprietors, independent contractors, and gig workers. So everybody on this call should qualify for that. If you haven't already, take this seriously. Go to our Facebook group, click that link. It takes 4 to 5 minutes to apply, and you can apply from each of your entities that had revenue last year. So if you had business and as a sole proprietor and also as an LLC, then you can apply from each position. So if you're not aware of that, I know there's a ton of news flying around and a lot of misinformation. We're trying to aggregate, and summarize and give you guys access to the things that actually do apply to you. So if you're confused about what the SBA is doing to help you, you can go read those summaries. They're posted in All the Leads Mastermind, our Facebook group, and I think it was Tuesday morning that I posted that stuff.
Perfect. All right, let's get to our callers. Joyce, you're up first. Phone number ending in 6248.
Good morning. I want to ask you, Chad, if when I get my appointment from this month's leads, do you recommend that I meet with all of the parties that are involved by Facebook? By FaceTime on the phone or Zoom. What do you think?
So FaceTime's going to be challenging because it's a one-to-one tool as far as I know. So I've never done group FaceTime. So Join.me is a great inexpensive tool that will allow you to share your screen, and I think now they even have video capability. But the most important thing is you get all the decision makers to the conversation, and Join.me is going to be the most cost-effective. Zoom is great, but it's pretty expensive. GoToWebinar is great. Again, it's pretty expensive. So Join.me kind of stepped up with their technology last year, and they really modernized the tech they're using, and it's a short learning curve, and something I think we pay $13 per license. We're on Enterprise, but it's probably like $20 a month or less. And then, there are tools for free like Google Hangouts. If you have a Gmail account, you can just start Google Hangouts, and they have to be a Google user to join you on that, though. Actually, maybe not. To join you on the video, they have to be a Google user. But I would say look at Google Hangouts, potentially Skype. It uses a lot of resources, and I don't know about your neighborhood, but we're having internet issues just because, I have blazing fast internet. I'm right across from a school, but because everybody's now working from home on this line, I have some audio issues and stuff. So Join.me uses way less resources on, bandwidth and on your machine. So I would say if I had to settle in on one as far as ease of use, affordability, and reliability, probably Join.me is going to be your best bet.
That's great. And would you please spell your calendar, the name of your calendar, whenever you...
So I use the tool that I use a Google Calendar and my Gmail calendar, but I integrate that with Calendly, so CALENDLY.com. CALENDLY.com. Yes. Yep.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Joyce.
We haven't been able to get to it. I kind of called some audibles and moved some other sessions, and the shift happens. I've laid out like operations conversations like this. So probably tomorrow we're either going to do freestyle Q&A to see what you guys need the most, or I'll go ahead and move into that buyer's operations side to show you how to basically retrofit your business to work virtually, including 360 cameras, wide-angle cameras, how to sanitize those, forward them along without human contact, all the tech tools that I've used to build and operate virtual companies. So that's coming. I have it outlined, and I just haven't gotten to it yet, Joyce. So I'll have a lot of other suggestions for you when we get to those sessions.
Excellent. Next up is phone number ending in 6501. You're up next.
Hi, guys. This is Mike Record in DFW. Hey, I'm new to ATL, but not new to being a realtor. I've been doing it for 16 years. I am a Mike Ferry trained rep, so I am used to the prospecting grind. and come here because a lot of things have dried up on other avenues, so I'm making my shift. Hey, a little point of contact. I'm already making my calls. Need a little bit of guidance. I do have it, the CSV file from you guys that I load up into Mojo. You can do that manually. But I gotta watch that I turn that dialer on and call 3 lines at once or put a hammer on. One of my questions I asked Jordan this week was, there's other names in the PR. When I'm grinding through these lists and trying to contact people, when is it that you go to the other names? It seems like when I tried to go through the names and let the dialer pass through them, people were clueless what I was calling for. I guess they didn't get a letter from me, but do I just set the dialer to only call the first PR name and phone number? I could understand if the PR had, the first name has more than two numbers, but when is it that you delve deeper into that name list?
So you're just so you understand, there are a potential 5 phone number slots in our system, and from top to bottom would be number 1 through 5. You'll hardly ever see 5 because the number 1 slot is reserved for if that was on public record, which is rare. So you're most commonly going to see 4 phone numbers. Number 1 is the most accurate. Number 4 would be the least, but still we found match points in the skip trace. So it's relevant. It just may be John Doe's wife instead of John Doe, or John Doe's brother instead of John Doe. So if you're setting up your dialer, if you want to call 1 number for each lead, you should import phone number slot 2 in the CSV sheet, or slot 1 if it's populated. And then you have to decide how you do this. For me, I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4 next lead, 1, 2, 3, 4 next lead. But if you want to do 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, come back and do 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, you could do it that way as well. So it's however you map your dial session. I would recommend do the 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. That way, you know that even though you're dialing 3 or 4 lines at a time, you're still on John Doe. So it actually becomes easier than most dial sessions on a dialer, where you could be calling 4 people about 4 different houses with 4 different names. One's going to pick up. Here we know we're calling 4 people. Even if it's 4 different names, we're talking about the same subject, probate case.
Yeah. Well, and what I've noticed, though, is the dial number 3 and number 4, they don't know why I'm calling. They seem clueless.
So if they're common names, sometimes we'll use a double match point, but sometimes if it's in a major metro area and there's 2 John Does, or Mike Smiths, then we may, it's more of an art than a science. We have about 95% accuracy on our numbers across the board, but it's not perfect. So if you get in a highly populated area with a very common first name, last name, then you could be getting the wrong Mike Smith. And if that's the case, just say, okay, sorry, my assistant found the wrong number. Sorry to bother you. And then you can mark that. You can actually edit your records, and you can mark it as a bad number.
Okay, fair enough. And just one other thing that I was hoping to ask on the role play call yesterday, I am running into a lot of people saying that the courts have got them locked down, that they're not doing anything until after this event with the virus goes on. Is there something, a pivot point or something in the script that I could go ahead and say, hey, we could be getting this done for you in the meantime? A lot of people are under the notion that they can't do anything until the lawyer tells them they can, or that they get other things.
You want to jump into a role play?
Absolutely.
Okay. So what was your name again?
Mike Record.
Mike.
Hi.
So, Mike, listen, we reach out to families early because we realize how big of a difference that can make, especially in times like these. What's been the toughest thing for your family so far with the probate?
Well, there's a lot of stuff that we've got to do, but I've been told that, we can't do anything until after this event, and the courts actually put us off for 3 months, so we're kind of at a standstill.
Sure. You guys, is your family life disrupted too, or are you guys all home?
Pretty much.
Yeah. So we hear this a lot, even when it's not in this environment. A lot of families think what the attorney said is you can't do anything until I say so. And unfortunately, a lot of attorneys, they're scrambling to figure out how to keep their businesses alive and just parking people on the sidelines. The net result of that is a lot of families are sitting with carrying costs and a lot of families with liabilities. They don't even realize their homes aren't insured. And right now, we may be risking equity. If we can have a home under contract, it's certainly a lot better than to have it sitting waiting for all this to come through and clear. So if you can, the people who show up at a concert early with their lawn chair and a cooler, they do that because they want to be in the front of the line and not face this huge onslaught of people, right? So
Right.
If you can think of the backlog that's about to happen in our court system is going to be that way. So if we're proactive when we make steps for the families we're working with now, if we go ahead and take some of those steps, I'll never guide you wrong. We don't do any legal aspect of probate. We focus on the people aspects of probate. So everything the attorney won't do for you is where our service picks up and goes all the way to the end to help the families. So anything that we are suggesting that you do, you have the authority to do. You do have the letters of testamentary, right? You got those before this started?
We did.
Okay. So you have the authority to list and sell real estate. You have the authority to move forward with personal property sales. Now, what state are you in, Mike?
Texas.
Yeah, so in Texas, be grateful for more than one reason. You're not in California right now. They have a much more complicated process that requires court confirmation and a lot of things. A lot of people will have an even longer backlog there. But in Texas, we have a pretty efficient process. So you can even help families. I don't know if anyone has ever talked to you about this, but we can help families by exercising monument of title. Have you heard of that before?
No.
So that actually allows us to take real estate outside of the probate in order to free up money in the family so liabilities can be settled and we can move forward even more quickly. So there's a lot of things I can share with you. There's a lot of things that while you guys are home that you could be accomplishing, so you're in the front of the line. And you can be there with an umbrella drink waiting when everything opens back up and we can move forward with your case. Ultimately, what we're concerned about is preserving as much equity as possible for the family and making this as the least stressful as we possibly can. And we're pretty damn good at what we do. So would Friday at 3 be a good time to get the family on? We'll just jump on a Zoom call and kind of discuss, what your situation is and put a plan together so you're not sitting around waiting to catch a falling knife.
That sounds real good.
All right, and I'll break.
Good. Hey, thank you very much. That helps with the direction.
Yeah. Sure.
All righty. Thank you for participating. Next up is phone number ending in 5221. You're up next.
Hey, how are you? John Michailidis here. You just brought, this wasn't my original question, but I did notice in the phone numbers on the lead list, slot 1, slot 2, 3, 4, and virtually always slot 1 is blank. And slot 2 is really the list, the phone number column. Quickly tell me the difference between the two slots.
Slot number 1 is reserved for a phone number that was recorded on the public record, which is very rare.
So when they filed the probate, they recorded a phone number, with the probate, and that's very unusual.
But slot 2 then still corresponds to name 1, the probate, the representative, correct?
Well, the way our system is going to show it to you, if slot 1 is not populated, you won't see it. So whatever name is directly to the right from the number is associated with that number.
And to answer your question, they're all associated with with the PR. If in fact we find a cell phone for the PR, we find a home phone for the PR, and maybe even a work number, that could be in positions 1, 2, and 3. It literally just depends on what gets found. We use what's called a champagne fountain approach. So we run it through multiple filters to pull that data down, and we find the best numbers that we can. In some cases, we find one number for the PR, and all of the other numbers are what we refer to as referential numbers, which could be parents, neighbors, wife, next door neighbor's dog catcher. We do the best we can to get any kind of data that we can to get you that data, but they're all in theory around that name and that address.
I understand that. My question is, if you got 4 names, they're not randomly there. The first number goes with the first name. The second number goes with
Correct.
the second name. Is that okay? Good. I just wanted clarification. So and then you mentioned about the COVID-19 federal government stuff. I just want to share. I've been in. Go on. Been in touch with my bankers. Oh.
You broke up a little bit, John. Say that again.
I want to piggyback on what Chad said about you need to get with your banker. There's funds available. I just want to share my experience talking to my 2 bankers for 2 different companies. It's very positive. So I've got a property management company that's been open 8 years. I've got employees and payroll and that stuff. Absolutely no problem. We've got the ball rolling for the PPP, it's called, the forgiveness loan that you can do payroll and certain utilities and rent and stuff with. But the other company that I established for doing this, Probate, the brokerage company, separate entity, has been open 2 months with no employees, with me as the sole proprietor. Different bank, I have that company account with. That banker says, oh, no problem. You've had 2 closings since you opened. And my point is, this is like the easiest thing you could imagine. Mm-hmm. And I literally opened this company 2 months ago and have had 2 closings. That's the entire financial history. And my banker is saying, I don't think it's going to be an issue. According to the guidelines, we're going to be able to get you a loan that will be able to be forgiven. So it's.
And what did you ask for the brokerage business with no employees, John? What did you ask for? What dollar amount?
Well, I didn't ask. So on the call, here's the thing. I discounted even talking about it. But my banker was savvy enough to delve and say, look, you've had 2 closings, so you've made $15,000. The guidelines simply say that the income has to be averaged over the past 12 months. Obviously, you haven't been open 12 months, so we got to average it over the months you've been open. So according to this, you've got $5,000 a month income average, and we can loan 2.5 times that, $12,500. So isn't that crazy?
So he'll submit your application tomorrow on the opening day?
Exactly. And as long as I use those funds for payroll, so I'll be able to pay myself $5,000 a month, or utilities, so my phone, or internet service, or mortgage payments for a company business-related owned property, which I don't have, but rent. I have an executive suite set up, so my little $125 a month for the executive suite, as long as I segregate that money and use that money to pay those items, it'll be forgiven. So in other words, $12,500 of absolutely free money.
And it's worth mentioning, even if you mess up or you don't segregate that and you use it for other things than you intended to, like not rent, payroll, utilities, the worst case scenario, this is a long-term loan with a 0.5% interest rate. So even if you don't have it, even if you don't have employees and even if you don't have payroll, if you haven't been doing payroll taxes and running your business like a business, still reach out and try to draw down on this, because where the hell are you going to get a commercial non-recourse loan with a 30-year amortization at 0.5% interest? That's unheard of. So, I mean, if you, we're all going through this together, and our government, small business represents 48% of our GDP. So if you, a business failing is bad for everybody. So if you don't be too proud to reach out to your banker, reach out to your SBA rep. They're putting the money here so we can move the market forward. So take advantage of it and lead from the front.
Yeah, it's not onerous. I was thinking it was going to be onerous. It's really simple. They want to get this money out.
I know we're so conditioned in loan applications. It's like, this can't be true. This has to be like a Russian spy website.
I was shocked.
You can literally do this in 2 or 3 minutes.
I was shocked. 2 different bankers, 2 different banks, I've never had bankers more wanting to give me money. It was crazy. So do it.
Yeah.
All right, to my actual reason for the call now. I was piggybacking on things you had said. I went ahead and hired VoiceLogic. We're going to be doing a split test between a couple of counties. We're going to do their ISA, basically, we'll call it that, service, live calls as if they were my agent, and then we're going to do the call drop one, and we're going to...
So, John, I spoke to Steve Lindo this morning, and I gave them scripts for your campaigns.
Nice.
So I've talked directly with them, and they're going to train according to what works for us.
Sweet. You the man. I don't care what Jim says.
Thanks as always, man, for your participation. We appreciate you.
Now, let me get off. Let me get to this point so you can get others on the call. I just want to put out there. So I'm attempting to build a team, not be a sole proprietor with my life spent on the phone. I'm trying to build an organization, a company that works these rather than myself being the guy that works these. If there is anyone else that wants to do that and brainstorm about that, JOHN at goegr.com. John at goegr.com. I would like you to email me and let's get a little brainstorm going about setting up a business as opposed to being a guy that works probate. Okay, that's it. Thank you very much.
Awesome, buddy. Thank you.
Thanks, Jim.
All right, next up is phone number ending in 7436. You're up next.
Hey, how's it going, everyone? Can you hear me okay?
Hear you great.
Perfect. Well, my name is Taj. I'm calling from the Metro Atlanta area, first-time caller, and I have been in real estate for a little less than a year and been a customer for all the leads, or with all the leads for 4 or 5 months now, something like that. So I just want to say, hey, thank you guys for all you do. It's been extremely helpful and educational, and I've been soaking it all in for several months now and decided to dive in as a customer a few months back, so it's been great. So I just want to say thank you guys to all the founders and the owners there personally. I really appreciate everything you guys are doing. And then number two, I have a success story and then a question to follow it up. But my success story is I got my first few set of leads over the past few months, and I got a listing from a letter that I sent out. So it was great, and I just want to let you know that it happened and it worked. So I've been following the simple send out the letters, get the letter campaign going initially, follow up with a phone call, and different things like that. And I believe on my third mailing, I got an email from a gentleman, and it was essentially a come list me. Not exactly worded like that, but he kind of pitched his deal that it was complicated, ended up going out there, was simpler than he let on, and that home is listed, and hopefully we'll be closing here soon. So that is awesome, and that is my success story.
Man, thanks for sharing.
That's great, buddy. Thank you. We appreciate you, man. Keep
No
up the good
problem.
work. Keep them coming.
Awesome.
All right. Next up is phone number ending in...
Jim.
I
think Taj had a question.
Oh, Taj, if you had a question, I am sorry. Let me unmute him. I still got him here. Taj, did you have a question? Did I cut you off too quick?
You did. I did have a quick follow-up question.
Sorry about that. Go ahead.
It is all good. So my question is this. Who gets to choose the closing attorney once you've listed a property? And then a second part to that is essentially once the home closes, how quickly will the client see the funds if it's an estate property? So kind of a two-part question, but hopefully tied together. Does my question make sense?
Sure. It does. The buyer has the right to choose their own title company or attorney. I would encourage the buyer's agent to use the same company because this is a probate, and I don't expect it in this case, but sometimes we do hit messy title, and we need to. It's just going to be a way smoother transaction for your client if you use my attorney who does all my probate closings. 100% of them, I think, have rolled to my attorney. So they can still use theirs, and it's not usually an issue. But if something does go sideways, it's nice to have everything in one office. So I would have a conversation when the buyer's agent submitted the offer, say, listen, we're going to use Doug's office. I would suggest you guys do the same. It's going to be less expensive and way more convenient, especially if something goes sideways. And they're like, okay, that sounds great. So just use your influence to nudge them, toward, and it honestly does it saves them money. It saves the buyers money. And then as far as releasing funds, typically either the fidelity bond has to be waived or a fidelity bond needs to be purchased, which can actually happen at the closing table if they haven't purchased one already. And that will release the money from escrow into the estate's bank account. Now, they have a minimum 4 months, some places 6-month waiting period. So from the time they first publish notice in the local paper, which is typically right after they petition for probate, it's that they have to publish notice for 21 days, and that opens a 4 to 6 month open period for creditors. Probate cannot be closed until that window is closed. So the money is going to sit there for at least, depending on where they are in that process, from the time that they published, it's a minimum of 4 months. Now, assuming they did everything that they could and they've efficiently done this and they've got the final accounting waiting for the court, then you can close them as soon as that period ends. The next hearing date, you can actually do the final accounting and the distributions and close probate. Most people aren't that efficient, so it's, most probates are going to take 6 to 9 months in most areas. States like California, Nevada, Hawaii, they can take, 12 to 18 months just because of the amount of oversight and court backlogs. But in Georgia, they shouldn't be more than 6 months from the filing if they're doing everything correctly. But, to set proper expectations, just say most of our clients are going to be receiving distributions within 6 to 9 months of petitioning for probate.
Sure. Okay. Well, thank you.
All right. Next up, patiently waiting, is phone number ending in 5916.
Hey, good afternoon, Chad and Jim. This is Steve in Pennsylvania. How are you?
Great, Steve. How about you?
I'm doing okay. Hey, Chad, I've been listening to you all week. Did a probate mastery for the 3rd time yesterday, and you made a point in there that I think has gotten through my thick skull in terms of becoming licensed as a real estate agent. Here in Pennsylvania, it says you have to be employed or at least attached to a broker or an agency, and you kind of addressed that yesterday, and perhaps I missed it. I'm willing to do the work to do it because, as you pointed out, that look, you're going to leave a lot of money out there by not being licensed, and it just gives you a greater flexibility so that you can best serve your client. And just wanted to make sure I fully understood that, or if I need to call for a coaching call, I can do that too.
No, I'll answer here. It's good for other people to hear. I'll start with, if you're an investor on this call and you've been told not to get a real estate license, go to alltheleads.com, and in the top right, type in why every investor should have a license, and that's going to bring up a tips from the trainer post that I did, I don't even know when, several months ago, that you can get my full soapbox rant there. But I think that if you're an ethical investor, if you're not intentionally screwing people, you have no liability having a license. Your biggest liability is all the money you're stepping over dollars to pick up dimes. And you should never have a junk lead. You should improve your skill set so you can monetize all leads. And if you're saying, well, I can't do anything with that lead, then you're coming up short on your skill set, not on your leads. So what I suggested in Master yesterday, even if you don't want to be a production agent, if you don't want to represent buyers and sellers, go get your license, hang it with an independent broker as a referral-only license. You don't have to pay national dues, state dues, local dues, MLS, E&O. You don't have to pay for any of that stuff. You can pay for your annual, whatever your $50 a year, whatever it is to have your license. You get, in a lot of states, you don't even have to do continuing education because you're not actually in an agency relationship with anyone. But it gives you the flexibility to receive commissions on a referral basis. So cut a deal with your broker. Just say, listen, you can take $75 of every transaction that comes through here, or whatever you can agree on, and you get the rest. So every time you look at a junk lead, just think you're throwing money away. You're taking a lead you paid for, and you're saying, I'm willing to throw this away. So you've already lost money, and you're throwing away even more. So if you're an investor and you don't have a license, as long as you're ethical and you're not screwing people, you don't have any liability other than you're just throwing away money. So hang it referral only and go get your checks.
Okay,
That
I have
help?
one more question. Yeah, it does. It helps
Sure.
a lot. Thanks for clarifying. And Ted, should there be in any contract, given the uncertainty, timing, even here in Pennsylvania, courthouse is closed now through the 30th of April. I mean, attorneys are still getting in. It's by appointment only. Should you have some language in a contract when you purchase, when you put a property under contract as subject to, just because the timeline you have no control over?
So are you talking about subject to the mortgage transaction?
Or whenever you can actually complete the transaction, exactly.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So what I do on short sales to eliminate this problem, because with a short sale, it's going to close sometime within 60 days or 60 months, right? So what I do is in the closing date field, I put an asterisk, see additional terms. And then down in additional terms, I'll do additional terms number 1 will be closing date shall be within 30 days of, and it's lien holder approval for a short sale. But here, it could, if it's a probate deal, it could be closing to be within 30 days of, whatever's restricting your closing from happening. So if that's a courthouse records room shut down, or if you need probate court approval, you can write those contingencies in there and use a 30-day window instead of a specific closing date.
Just one other quick thing about Pennsylvania. That's one of the states that we've been doing a bunch of digging in lately, and the thing that we're hearing is that in certain markets and potentially in all markets, what they're trying to do is specifically get the probate court piece of this open so that they can continue to do filing, specifically because it is pretty critical and essential at this point in regard to the need to keep money moving. So you may find that there's more information coming out, and we probably will put some findings out next week once we get a better handle on this to each individual based on the state that you're in. If we have any updates for you in regard to your state, we'll keep you posted. But we are seeing some signs that the courts are going to move more quickly to get probate back in session faster than what might be considered elective legal things. That's probably a pretty critical piece of it. So just keep in mind that we'll keep you posted as we find things out. That's great information to have, and Lord knows the local governments lose money as a result of not having these courts open to be able to process. Yep, that's true.
All right, sir. Anything else?
No, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
All right, thank you. Next up is phone number ending in 7343. You're up next.
Hey, Jeff Campbell here, Central Arkansas. Been a member approximately 4 or 5 months now. Really just dove into it hard the last couple months, and got my first closing coming up this week, actually tomorrow, maybe possibly even today. And then my question is the small SBA deal, is that a grant or a loan? And that's really all I have.
There's actually both. So the $10,000 that I referenced first, that's actually a grant, and that's a rapid deployment grant that you provide your last year's revenue, last year's cost of goods, and then just your EIN or social, and basically click apply. And in theory, within 3 business days, they will ACH the money directly to your bank account. Now, I've applied more than 3 days ago, but I was like, the second it was released, I applied, and a lot of other folks I know did. So far, I haven't seen money hit bank accounts yet, but it's certainly going to be a lot more rapid than the other programs. The other one that you want to look at is the PPP, the Paycheck Protection Plan, I believe it is. That one is a loan at 0.5% interest. However, it is forgivable as long as you can prove in the future when they audit this, probably during your 2020 tax return, As long as you can prove all of the money was used for payroll, utilities, rent, like direct operational cost, then that is forgivable, and they'll most likely forgive that on your next tax return. But worst case scenario, it's 0.5% debt. And then the other program, I'm coming up short on the acronym for this one. It's up to $2 million at 3.75% on a 30-year amortization, and that was the one that came out first, not part of the CARES Act. So there's multiple programs flying around out there. I posted a summary page. If you look in All the Leads Mastermind and just look at my post from Tuesday morning, one has a big stop sign. That's the one that's the $10,000 grant. But below that, there's a summary document that kind of puts everything in one place with safe links that you can trust.
Hey, one question on that then. Would you have already had to file your taxes for the year in order to qualify for that?
No, they'll go back to your 2018 AGI if you haven't filed 19. And in case anyone's not aware, your 2019 tax deadline has been moved to July 15th, not April 15th, if you're not aware of that.
Wow. Hey, thanks for all the information. I really appreciate what you do for everybody. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Next up is phone number ending in 2559. You're up next.
Yeah, hi. Tatiana in Portland, Oregon. And I got introduced to All the Leads through Tim and Julie Harris' podcast. I had a very basic question. I know that obviously you have to work the leads, you have to make your calls, you have to send out the letters, but I was curious if you could give me just a kind of a rundown or average of what the conversion rate is once you start making that contact, like voice-to-voice contact with the PR.
Want me to do that? Chad, you want me to do that? I've probably answered that question a few thousand times. I'll jump in. My sales team gets asked that constantly. This is Jim. And this is going to sound very facetious, but it runs between 1 and 20%. And I'll just give you the two extremes. We've got a guy in New York City that made over $1 million last year. He gets 300 leads, and he does 2 or 3 deals a month. And then we have a guy in rural Arkansas that gets 15 leads, 15, 20 leads, and he does 2 or 3 deals a month. So it varies greatly by market. The busier metropolitan areas, these people get a lot of mail, and you probably aren't going to be the only one calling them, although it's certainly not like BizBos and expireds. You're not going to have 100 people calling them. You may have some competition. The more rural, smaller markets, we had a lady on last week's call that got 5 listings last weekend, and she never picked up the phone. So it's really hard. Yeah, it's really hard to generalize, and that's why we recommend a pretty standard program. Get your leads, send a letter, follow up with a phone call, and do that at least 3 times. Because even in the busiest markets, you will get business off the mail. It'll be a lower conversion rate, but even in the smaller markets, you're going to get a higher conversion rate if you're willing to follow that letter with the phone call. Does that make sense?
It does.
All right, Chad, anything you want to add?
I would just say that it's more mindset dependent than market dependent. If you're a strong prospector and you're compassionate and empathetic, you can kick ass no matter where your market is.
True. Can't argue with that. All right. Thank you, Tatiana. Next up is a familiar name, Belinda Reese. You're up next.
Hey, how you doing? I think some of the questions had come up, but I just wanted to ask once again about what people are seeing with the banks and appraisals. Do you see any adjustments being made in the way that they're doing these? For example, we're doing a lot of stuff virtually as agents and stuff like that, but I'm just wondering if, for example, I had an appraisal that was scheduled today for a short sale. Initially, the sellers were okay with it, but then they rethought it and they don't want anybody in the house, for obvious reasons. And I'd asked the appraiser would the bank accept maybe an outside appraisal. I'm just wondering what people are seeing across the area in terms of, banks making adjustments, appraisals, and things like that. That was the one thing, and then I had one other question.
So far, it's shockingly, escrows have been moving forward like loan approvals have been. I think a big contributing factor to that was a lot of the government-backed loans are now allowing automated appraisals. So they had made started to make some changes in the beginning of the year to allow automated appraisals on some of those loans, and they've ramped that up. They've just opened it up for more loans. So I think that, with a lot of banks are choking on refinance applications because so many people saw the interest rate drop to zero and ran in. So that put a big backlog through appraisal companies. So one of the first steps they made is they made automated appraisals more widely acceptable, and I think they're still making moves in that direction. So I think that was one move that they made preemptively that prevented a bigger slowdown or a bigger backlog on appraisals. So if they're using a government-backed loan, you can probably count on the lender being able to push it through with an automated appraisal. The challenge that we're about to see is going to be income and employment verification. I don't know that they for sure have a solution in place for that other than if they can get the investors in the secondary market to agree on a later employment verification and still buy the paper. I think that's kind of how it's operating right now.
This, the deals I'm talking about more are short sales more so than like regular retail purchases per se. So it was on the bank side in terms of being able to approve the short sale. And
and that's a different ball game. So they should be, in my opinion, the banks should be smart enough to see the incentive and getting an appraisal and getting a transaction closed. So I would hope that they're using electronic appraisals. Jim, I think that would be a great question. You could ask Pam what she's seeing because she's working on dozens of short sales right now.
Belinda,
send Belinda an email.
Yeah, Belinda, my wife sent over 2,000 of them, and I know she closed 2 last week. So far she doesn't seem to be having issues. But give her a call at direct number 954-584-0000. And that goes for anybody. If you need help with the short sale, she's done more than anybody I know. So, and she does them nationwide. So, a little plug for my wife. But but so far so good. I don't think there's any issue. Go ahead.
The last thing, one of the other agents had mentioned he got a loan or something from his bank. That's not through the PPP program, is it? And then if it is,
it is. So that's part of their efficiency move. Basically, you can get these CARES Act loans that they're using the existing distribution channel of FDIC insured banks. So any bank or credit union with FDIC standings can take these applications and process these loans for you, which is it's going to make a huge difference because SBA is just, they had it handed to them.
Okay, but do you have to have your real estate business in an LLC or something like that, or could it be in a person's personal
You don't. It depends on which thing you're applying for. The $10,000 grant is for sole proprietors, gig workers, independent contractors, doesn't matter.
Yeah, I've done
Some
that.
of the other things do require some of the other programs do require you to be less than 500 employees, but at least 2 employees, and you have to have been paying payroll.
Okay. So I probably could just check with my bank then. I'm sure Capital One is FDIC approved. So I'll just check and see what they have on board in terms of applications.
And Belinda, I have to tell you, you don't be surprised if your bank doesn't have a clue because they're supposed to, but you may have to call a few banks. A lot of them, that's supposed to be where you go to, but my bank had no clue, and I actually had to go to my sister's personal banker who did it for me as a favor. So you might have to ask around and actually, before you go down and wait a line in the bank, I'd call ahead and just ask if they're up to speed on it yet.
Okay, and there's supposed to be no recourse? No recourse loan? Yeah. They're not grants.
It depends. Again, like you're asking one question about many different products. So some of them are non-recourse, some of them are grants, some of them are loans. Like for example, the one at 3.75% for $2 million, that is partially collateralized. So in order to do that, they're going to want some collateral. But some of them are completely non-recourse.
Okay. Okay then. All right, that's good.
All right. Thank you.
One other thing.
Sure.
One other thing.
Go ahead.
Are people really are people really calling people about probate right now? I mean, what can we do? What can we help them do at this point? I mean, most of my vendors, they're not going out. People cleaning out houses, estate sales, stuff like that. They're not going out either. So I'm just wondering, what can we actually do when we call these people?
Well, it's going to be market dependent, depending on how locked down you are. I mean, here in Virginia,
I'm in Maryland.
I know. I'm saying I'm in Virginia.
Unless we have to go get food or work or medication, stuff like that.
Okay.
Although I do have a closing tomorrow, so we're going for that. But
I mean, you can help them anything that will help move this down the line. So if they have not dealt with the personal property, they're certainly allowed to go to the property. So can they start cleaning the house out and getting it ready for sale? The faster you get it on the market, the more insurance you've given them for their equity. And as right now, we're not seeing listings ramp up, but if you watch unemployment numbers, we know that's coming. So the quicker you can get the assets sold, the more equity you can retain for the family. So if that means signing a listing agreement with a future MLS upload date, hand them the blue pen. Like send it in DocuSign, get it signed. And if your MLS will allow you to market, to market properties that aren't currently being shown, and you can send your seller, like buy a Ricoh 360 camera, send it to the seller with a package of sanitary wipes and instructions, and say, please walk around the house in this order, in this fashion, inside and outside, send this back to me. You can list that house without ever seeing it, and just say, as long as your MLS allows it, just say this is non-showable. We're selling as is, where is, accepting cash offers. We welcome a site inspection contingency, and the closing date should be asterisk, within 30 days of whatever's holding you up from closing right now. But do anything you can do like that moves them down the line will be really helpful for them.
Okay, because they do allow virtual tours now. I see a lot of that for right now, virtual tours.
Yeah.
I don't know if people are actually purchasing through that method, but, it doesn't matter. What kind of camera was that again? You said Ricoh 360?
Forget the model number. If you Google Ricoh 360 camera, R-I-C-H-O, they're about $250. Amazon can get them to you overnight or in 2 days right now.
Right, okay.
And that is dollar for dollar. That's one of the best values on the market.
All right. Well, we are going to go about 10 minutes over. Next up is phone number ending in 4415. You're up next. Are you there?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes. I was just wondering, on a very limited budget and with the courthouses being limited access, what other avenue as far as accessing probate leads source? Is there any other source we could try to get? We're very interested in trying to start a mailer campaign. It's just on a limited budget.
Have you talked to our salespeople? Do you know what the cost is for your county?
Yeah, I've gone with him on it, and it's just a little bit too much for us to afford. So. Is there a way you could limit, because we were looking at certain counties that had larger amounts of leads. Is there a way you could break the county down in half to say maybe only get 100 leads or something like that?
Absolutely. Your name's Spencer, right?
It's Barry. Yeah.
Oh, Barry. The phone says Spencer. And this number you're calling from, I'll have one of our salespeople call you as soon as the call's over. We can get you fewer leads if you're trying to cut your costs down. Sure.
Of course, that depends on the county and all of that. I mean, that's not a general
exactly.
We certainly are doing everything we can to try to help people. The other thing, Jim, you want to mention is also to talk a little bit about historical, because we know that this is a great time for that, and this is probably a great time for you to bring that up.
Yeah, we can get you historical leads at a reduced price. And the nice thing about historical, the older they get, the less competition you have. If you go back 3-6 months, we've even had people go back a year, maybe 70-80% of them are sold, but the ones that aren't, nobody's contacted them in months, and they're generally finally ready to do something. Make sense?
What would if they're in the probate process, why would they let their lawyer let it drag so long?
Well, no, it may well be that the probate's completed and they still haven't sold the home. That's not uncommon at all. That's not uncommon at all. You know, the probate's completed. The family gets title, but they're in Iowa and the property's in California. They just haven't taken the time to go through mom and dad's stuff, or they're not emotionally ready to deal with it. There's a lot of reasons why people delay, but it's not uncommon at all that they'll file the probate, get the approval, get the title of the property, and 6 months later they still haven't listed or sold it.
Or a family member was living in it, or in fact somebody says, hey, you know, one of the things we can do right now to make some money for the family, since 2 or 3 people maybe aren't working, got laid off, we've got that property that we had from grandma that we just let it sit. Maybe it's a great time to get it on the market and sell it. There's a lot of reasons right now historical is hotter than ever.
And any of you who haven't been with us a long time that want us to go back and get historical, the same thing goes for you. We can get that considerably less expensive than your regular leads. Okay? I think I lost him. All right. Next up is phone number ending in 8213. You're up next.
Hi, everyone. First-time caller. I'm trying to get used to all your guys' voice, so I'm sorry if I mess up with the names.
It's okay.
Okay. So I have a few questions, or actually just clarification. So I believe it was Chad mentioned that there's an application that opens up tomorrow. I believe that's the PPP. Is that correct? The one that you said is likely going to be forgivable as long as you can prove it on your next tax return?
Was the voice that said that cloaked in a beautiful accent? Because if so, that was Chad.
Yeah.
So
And he's awfully modest. I'd add it. So very modest.
Yes, tomorrow is the opening of filing for entities, and I believe it's next Friday is the opening for sole proprietors and independent contractors on the same program.
So next Friday being the 10th, right? Not tomorrow.
I think. I don't have it in front of me.
Sure.
I have a small brain, if you haven't noticed, so I'm trying to go by memory. If you look in our Facebook group, All the Leads Mastermind, if you're a member, I posted it, I believe, Tuesday morning, and that will give you links to more information and a summary of what's out there. And
cool,
I have one
more
form. There's one more that I don't believe I've posted. I have a PDF that has even more detail on the programs, and I'll post that right after this call, or as part of the recap for this call.
Cool. Yeah, I'm gonna join I just signed up with you guys, so I don't know anything about the Facebook yet. I'm gonna look into that today. I literally just signed up.
Welcome.
Okay. Just type in All the Leads Mastermind in the main Facebook browser bar, and just request to join, and we'll let you in today.
Okay, cool, perfect. And and just to clarify, so regarding the SBA and all that stuff, you were saying that you don't necessarily need to have an LLC dependent on the type of loan that you're going for. So for example, if you're going for the $2.5 million one that you're talking about, that you likely need to prove that you have employees. But as far as the other ones go, you can be a sole proprietor. Is that correct?
Yes, without a doubt, the $10,000 grant is everybody on this call should be eligible for that. The loan programs are different. Some of them are just for employers with at least 2 employees on pay, and that'll be proven by payroll taxes. So if you're not paying real salaries, then that won't, it's going to be hard to reconcile on your tax return. So just think about it that way. Like if the IRS is going to be reconciling this, what do you have as proof, right? So to qualify for some of those loans with forgiveness, and the worst case scenario here, if you screw up massively, your worst case scenario is you get a commercial, you basically get a business loan, non-recourse at 3.75% with a 30-year amortization. So even if you screw it up and put the wrong thing on your application, you've gotten one of the best business loans ever. So don't be timid about it. And the bankers, before you sign anything, you're going to have to talk to somebody about it, and you can be like, oh, no, that's actually, we need to amend that. But it's right now, it's in your best interest to just get applications in quickly, and you can sort out the specifics later.
So I got the one done. I applied to the one called disaster loan assistance, and that's where I checked the box that says I would like to be considered for an advance of up to $10,000. Is that what you're referring to as far as the grant goes?
Yeah.
Okay. So, okay, perfect. And I just have two more things. One is if Jim could repeat his wife's phone number regarding the short sale. I think it was 954 something.
Yeah, it's Nationwide Short Sale Solutions, and it's 954-584-0000. And she's sitting here smiling because I'm giving out her phone number, so she's right at her desk if you need her.
And her name?
Her name is Pam Sullivan.
Pam. Okay, perfect. Okay, cool. And then my last question has to do, so I am in California. I recall you saying that it can take longer because there's court confirmation that's required. Did I understand correctly that it's likely going to take 6 to 9 months for each one to process? And when I say process, did you mean, is this before you take and sell the listing or before the heirs get paid and everything is closed?
So the name of the game in California, the name of the game in California, what you need to educate yourself on is full authority. And you have limited authority and full authority in California. Almost no attorneys coach their I don't know if that's fair. The best attorneys will petition the court for full authority at the very beginning, and that makes it more efficient and less of a pain in the ass and a lot less expensive for the family. However, most attorneys don't do that. Statewide, most of our people have, they have to go through the overbid process. So I'm looking 3 steps down the road. We know that in Los Angeles County, Bill Gross reported last week, his probate cases that are waiting confirmation have been deferred to at least July 14th is the next available hearing date, or the first available hearing date. So what that tells me is anyone who has limited authority is going to be standing in line in a court backlog. Anyone who has full authority can go ahead and sell real estate to protect their equity, and then they can put the money in the estate's bank account and then get in line and wait for the final accounting at the court. So anyone on this call in California, you should be hounding the families, the probate attorneys, everyone if the courthouse is open, if they're accepting probate petitions, make sure they're petitioning for full authority, because that way you won't be subject to the huge backlogs as much as the people with limited authority.
Okay, perfect. Sorry for
we're talking
bombarding with questions, but thank you.
No. It's good to have the conversation. I mean, this can account for literally millions of dollars of savings across the state if everybody can push people to do the right thing for the family.
We've got 4 in the queue, guys. We're really going to try to get to everyone, but if you have a question, I'm going to close the queue. Just if we don't get to you, just email right after the call, supported all the leads, and someone will call you back. Next up is phone number ending in 1495. You're up next.
Yes, sir. Brand new to this, kind of what the other gentleman said, budget, what have you. I am wanting to learn to make sure that this is, something I want to do, so that's, long term, not something you just try. Not asking for a handout, but at the same token, I was the county that I need. The price was, it was up there. So,
we'll have someone reach out to you too. Maybe we can set you up with some historical to get you started. I've got your number. And what's your first name?
It's David.
David, I'll have someone reach out to you right after the call, okay?
Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, sir. Next up is phone number ending in 3755.
Hello, it's Janelle calling from Kerrville.
Couple of questions for you. I've been in the program since October, and we are a very small rural county. I am totally striking out on bad email addresses. There are very few phone numbers that come through that are not do not call. I've maybe had half a dozen conversations with people. One may in the future pop loose, but really feeling like it's anemic and I need to go another direction on trying to get some traction here. You have reinstated phone calls, setting appointments, and so forth. And if you're doing that, does that include do not call list, or how does that all work?
No, because we have a call center status, we have a much larger bullseye on our back, and we carry more liability from a D&C standpoint. So we started doing D&C validation for that purpose or for that reason, and we push that through to you guys free of charge just in case you want to know about it. We have had, I think, probably just about everybody on this call just goes ahead and calls. There are legal opinions that say that this person is, at least for a temporary period, a public representative, and D&C wouldn't apply. I'm not going to say, like, I'm not an attorney, but we certainly haven't had a problem. We've had, probably approaching 6 or 7 million outbound prospecting calls since we started. And the only negative consequences I've seen is I think it was in Brooklyn, a New York State attorney called after getting a complaint from the FTC saying, please don't do that. But they didn't even bother with a written complaint, much less any recourse. So you've got to look at your own individual liability. It's minimum, and decide if that makes sense for you. But it does for most people.
Okay, well,
Okay.
Very conservative county here, so there are still some concerns there because everybody knows.
So what are you doing with probate attorneys?
I've reached out to a couple of them. I've just kind of gotten frozen off. Most of us know each other just through acquaintance in town anyway, and just not a whole lot of response. Of course, everything right now is in flux with shutdowns and people not doing things, but I didn't get a whole lot of response reaching out to some of them. It's kind of old-timey established practices around here, so it's going to take a while. But, I've been a successful agent in the area for 15 years, and I'm trying to use it as much as anything to break through on some of this stuff.
Do you have a living trust?
Do I have a living trust? No, I have had one with my for my family through my parents in another state.
Okay. Do any of your past clients have a living trust?
A lot of them do.
Okay. Well, the reason I ask, anyone who you can find that doesn't have a living trust, they should if they have assets, and you can turn those into referrals and really get those attorneys' attention. So when you walk in the door saying, hey, I'm stuck at home, I decided to raise my standard of service, and I've helped all these people buy these like expensive assets, but they're going to have to go through probate if something happens. So I've reached out to my network, and I have at least 5 people that are ready to sit down and talk about a proper estate plan. And I'm looking for attorneys locally that I can trust to touch them within 24 hours and make sure they're taken care of with the same standard of service I give them. Am I in the right place? And they run off of referrals, and they're like scrambling to find ways to keep all their staff right now. So if you're bringing referrals to them to open the conversation, naturally they're going to be like, well, what is it again that you do? And that gives you an opportunity to pitch your probate service, like what you do to help their clients. It's directly complementary to what they do. You pick up where they leave off, and you do everything that the family is burdened with. To the point that
many of the estate attorneys here already have contacted the clean out people. So we're kind of sharing the same sort of people in town because they're kind of doing a lot of that because it's so small here. It's a very cliquey kind of thing. They probably know my children's name as I'm trying to get in there and talk to them about other business. It's a little different scene than just coming in and saying I have all this because we're all so connected. But I am looking for creative ways to try and break through. It's just been kind of slow going.
And if you need a private coaching call, let us know. Reach out to us. One of us will get on the phone with you and try to walk you through it. We're offering free monthly coaching calls to our clients. So sign up for one of them, and maybe we can help you individually. Go ahead, Chad.
I was just going to say, I mean, if the attorney's offices are doing that, that's awesome. Very few in the entire country, very few attorney's offices handle those services. However, it's likely they're not getting paid for that. So what if you show them a way where you can absorb that as part of your service and they no longer have to have that load on their staff? If you can show them ways to be more efficient and you know, close files more quickly, anything you can do to really provide value to the attorney is going to help you greatly, you know, supplement your efforts on the marketing side. And the other thing, I mean, it's not the right time for it, but in a small town, well, even so, we've had very successful door knocking campaigns in Hollywood, California, Santa Clara, California, San Jose. These are big, wealthy neighborhoods, mostly gated, and people do really well door knocking. So if you know everybody in town and everybody knows you, it's probably not the right time to do it right now. But a way to really get penetration is literally just drive and meet with every personal representative and put, you know, have a brochure or have a letter that you can leave behind or you can hand to them in person. And if, you know, if like, I hope you understand the opportunity in this space. I mean, we're in the very beginning of 40 years worth of the largest wealth transfer you'll ever see in U.S. history. And you're in one of the most insulated lead sources in the entirety of real estate right now. There's a reason web lead companies are slashing their prices 60% for existing customers. But there's also a reason why we're hitting record numbers on our website traffic, on these calls, on everything else, because this is a massive opportunity to insulate your business against a recession and make one hell of a difference in your community. So just my ounce of encouragement not to give up, just figure out what the unique value is in a small town and run toward the obstacle. Don't revert back to, you know, don't give up on something you already have momentum on.
All right, well, 5 minutes, we're going to wrap this up. Next up is Darcy. Darcy, quick question, or can we, it's
yes.
7653. You're up next. Go ahead.
Okay, quick question. I had a call yesterday from a letter I sent out, and he said the house his dad owned, he rented. The dad rented the house. And then I was thinking, well, why are you calling me? I don't understand. What, you know, I didn't say that to him, but I said, oh, your father rented the house? And he said, yeah. And I says, well, then, did he have any other real estate anywhere else? He said, no. So I didn't know what to say. You know, what could I say? I said, well, you know, did you have an attorney? Yeah. I said, well, he didn't really say what he wanted. You know, it was just like he just called me, and I was kind of dumbfounded that, you know, he didn't really need anything. That was one question. Second question.
So respectfully, you don't know what he needed. He wouldn't have called you if he didn't need anything.
But he didn't say, you know, I told him, I said, you know, I'm trying to specialize in probates, and then I said, now let me ask you this. If they have less than $100,000 in assets, do they have to file probate?
No, you won't see those leads. They're exempt.
Okay, so they do not have to.
So here, I want to answer this with a story. There was a guy in Florida, Central Florida. He scrubbed his list, which I encourage people not to do. But he decided after listening to a Tips from the Trainer video to go ahead and call the ones without real estate because he'd already gotten through his other calls. Calls a guy, his dad rented a trailer. He didn't own the trailer. He was renting it in a mobile home park in Central Florida. And he's like, okay, well, let me ask you, you know, is there anything, like he said, the probate's really not, it's pretty simple. Dad didn't have much. He had something worth over $100,000 because he wasn't exempt. But he said, well, okay, well, how about, you know, have you guys thought about what you're going to do with the inheritance distribution? We have registered investment advisors that can advise you on how to invest that into things like 529 college savings plans, life insurance policies, long-term care insurance for yourself. And then we'd also try to give everyone the opportunity to meet with our estate planning attorney, because if you don't know already, this is going to cost you about 5% of the gross value of your dad's estate, just in administration fees. So we like to help our clients get set up with a living trust. We can accomplish that usually for under $2,000, and it's way cheaper than probate, and your family never has to go through what you've gone through. The response was, wow, that's really impressive. I didn't know anybody did this. That's pretty amazing. Listen, man, you're a realtor, right? I've got this house that I picked out that I want to buy, but I've got to get mine on the market. Can you meet me tomorrow and do that? $1.4 million listing and a $2.6 million acquisition. He made $120,000 because he kept providing value. He kept asking good questions, and he tried to find some way to help this person. So what I was saying, the reason he reached out to you, there's something in the background saying, you know, I need to know this person. I think she could help me out. And we've got to remember the average inheritance in the United States last year was $177,000. How many people in this environment call you with $177,000 in cash? And what can you show them, from investment property to turning them into a lender for your investors to turning them into a referral for your investment advisors or your estate planning companies, and then that referral results in a direct real estate referral back to you? So just always look for a way to help them, and look for something you can do, and have good questions to keep the conversation moving, because we never know what situation these folks will be in. I mean, only 45% of Americans have whole life, but those 45%, a lot of people are getting between $500,000 and $1 million in life insurance money. Wouldn't that be a good client?
All right. Well, last up this week, we're going to set a record not only for attendance, but for the length of the call. Mr. Forsythe, you're up last.
I'm a good one to have last. You need a button, Jim, that says unmute all when Chad makes some of those comments about, I forget the one he made an hour ago when I punched in, but he can be a little bit, you know, over the top, and we all need to say, "Shut up, Chad."
Well, thank you. I'm not sure if I should have unmuted you. What can we do for you, Jim?
No,
I'm just kidding. I know.
I was just driving and heard that. I said, I got to say something about Chad. He's so incredible. But, everybody needs to know how good he is.
All right. Well, we appreciate that, buddy. Thank you. All right, guys. Well, we had over 200 people, and there's still 150 of them here, so you guys are extremely patient. I know this call went on long. This is an important time, and there's a lot of issues on the table, so I want to thank each and every one of you for being here. I want to particularly thank the 13 people that actively participated. I want to challenge each of you, take one thought, one idea, one thing that inspired you today, go out and put it into practice, and come back next Thursday and share the results with the group. And don't forget, next Wednesday at 2 o'clock Eastern, we will talk to you on our monthly role play call. Thanks a lot, guys. Stay healthy, stay prosperous, and make it a great week. We'll talk to you next week. Take care.